This commenter, like many Muslims, have over-reliance on the hadith. Like they treat the hadith as co-equal with the Quran. And the hadith will never be co-equal with the Quran. Hadith will forever be criticized and questioned as they are human efforts. Hadiths are human attempts to compile what they believe the Prophet said or did. So criticism or questioning the hadith is nothing close to attack on Islam or the Prophet. So it is reclaiming the Prophet and Islam from statements that doesn't align with Quranic principles. For you as ordinary Muslim, when you read or say the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, what you are quoting is a finished product, something already filtered, graded, and packaged through multiple human lenses. That is why the hadith you rely on to be authentic by one theology will not be accepted as authentic in another theology, because hadith authentication itself is not an objective fact. It is theologically framed. I have attached a video at the end of this video, and that video is a perfect example of how compilers of hadith, scholars, or even school of thought can discredit each other's work based on theological differences and even personal biases. Hadith authenticity is not a neutral label. It is a sectarian badge that reflects an influence of a particular theology. So at the end of the day, you as ordinary Muslims, when you are approaching the hadith, you have to be at the mercy of someone or school of thought to rely on what is authentic and what is not. Because for you to access statement as supposedly spoken by the Prophet, it has passed through several human filters. The compilers of the hadith themselves relied on people who claimed to have heard something from someone who heard it from someone else, and so on. The question now is this: who decides what is authentic and what is not, or what is fabricated and what is not? As for your suggestion that I revisit the Prophet's life with his wives, I already have, and I found no place where the Prophet demanded submission or servitude from his wives. That is why some statement or interpretation of some statements ascribed to the Prophet regarding women completely makes no sense. They don't make any sense. And it is ironic that in hadith literatures, the anti-women hadiths are actually very few. But Patriarchy did something clever. Patriarchy amplified those few and erased the rest. So the way Patriarchy did that was through social institutions, juristic authority, and generations of preaching. So they turned those rare misogynistic narrations into dominant social truth, while the pro-women hadith teachings faded from our collective memory. Centuries ago, hadith codification was done by men, and these men institutionalized religion in ways that reflected their own societal context and their biases. So once upon a time, those men decided which narrative to include or exclude as hadith, and eventually they closed the corpus of hadith altogether. And such intervention wasn't a defined instructions. It wasn't a defined instructions, but their own jurisdictions. So as ordinary Muslim, I don't blame your over-reliance on hadith, because to be fair, institutionalized beliefs are easy. Institutionalized beliefs are like finished products. You don't need to, like, someone has already done the work for you, so you just have to approach it and consume it. And another reason for over-reliance of ordinary Muslims on hadith is because they think those compilers had close proximity to the Prophet's life. But unfortunately, that's not true, because most hadiths were collected more than 150 years after the Prophet's death. So, and they were all collected based on oral transmission. And by that time, memory politics, sectarian divisions, and even social changes had influenced what was circulating as prophetic reports. Yes. So as Muslims, we must revisit our understanding of the faith, not just blind adherence to scholarly works that doesn't align with the Quranic principles. And we must stop treating scholarly works as defined truth. They are not revelation, because they too were human. So it is essential for us Muslims to stop relying on just sermons to understand our religion. And yeah, no, the works of scholars are not defined truth. They are not defined revelations that are binding on Muslims. They are not.
Obviously, we Hanafis, we cannot accept that Sahih al-Bukhari is the most authentic. Why?
I would say in almost every Muslim household, including mine, we had the Sahih Bukhari, and it says right on the cover that this is 100% authentic, and a lot of people believe that. Now, your book argues that, this is not necessarily the case. So how do we, what's your take on that?
Imam Bukhari, from Uzbekistan, okay, one of the top imams of narration. Let's not confuse. He's great in narrating, but everything else is other people are greater than him. Okay, so that is certainty. Narrating hadith is one thing, Okay, but knowledge of Quran and knowledge of other subjects of Islam is totally different thing.
I understand. Yeah.
Imam Bukhari, obviously we Hanafis, we cannot accept that Sahih al-Bukhari is the most authentic. Why? Because Imam Bukhari by himself, he initiated, okay, over 20 places in which he criticized Abu Hanifa for rejecting these over 20 ahadith. In there, he refers to Abu Hanifa because he used to live in Hanafi city, Bukhara, city of Bukhara. So he wouldn't mention his name to not to cause friction. So he says, قال بعض الناس. Some people say such and such, but here is the hadith saying opposite of that. So we Hanafis, we cannot say that Sahih Bukhari is the most authentic because he criticizes us that. He criticizes our Imam for rejecting them over 20 hadith. Okay? And even from our side, our Imams, our Hanafi scholars, responded to Bukhari. Okay? Over this issue of قال بعض الناس. Some people say, so he will be referring to Abu Hanifa for rejecting these ahadith. So they have compiled books in which they explain why Abu Hanifa rejects these 25
Based on the Hanafi principles and giving rational reasons.
Yeah. So means we Hanafis, obviously it is not the case in our time because contemporary Hanafis, they are Hanbalis. In fiqh, they are Hanbalis, in Aqidah, and Hanbalis nearly on everything. Okay? But I'm talking about the pure Hanafi school of thought. Okay.
Now, do you think in our community, you know, the Quran doesn't have a whole bunch of rules, restrictions, etc., and a lot of people rely on the Hadith to, you know, get the specifics of things. Do you think as a community now, there's an over-reliance of Hadith?
No doubt, no doubt. Because as I said, the contemporary Islam, contemporary Sunni Islam is over 80%. I mean, in more than 80% of the issues, they are Hanbalis. They have Hanbali approach. And Hanbalis do nothing except following the narrations. Okay, they do not compare the narrations to Quran. They do not adjust it by that. They do not compare the Quran on, for example, the widely accepted principles of Islam. Okay, but single chain narration can abrogate entire Quran according to them. We Hanafis, we cannot accept it. This hadith is narrated through many different chains in different versions. So in total, it will be authentic according to the contemporary principles of testing hadith. It says, according to them, Prophet says, you know, the right of the husband upon his wife is that if pus and phlegm will be leaking from his nose, and if she licks it, she will be unable to fulfill his right. How does it sound like?
I'm very disturbed right now.
God says, what God says about the right of husband upon wife. God says, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Wives have exactly the same right upon their husbands, which husbands have upon their wives. Where are they leaking the phlegm? Where are they leaking?
Yeah, where did that come from?
You understand? Where did you get it from? You remember Prophet Musa?
Yes.
He went to Mi'raj for how many days? 40 days. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay, and when he came back, what did he find? His message was destroyed. Because his nation, they were worshipping the golden calf.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yes.
Now my question to you, which part of the message of Prophet Musa was destroyed? Is it just mustahab and sunnah issues, or is it the actual message? The actual message of Prophet.
Issue at hand.
You understand? So within less than 40 days, if it was possible for these people to destroy the message, the main message of a prophet, so what do you think about 1,400 years? You understand?
Yeah.
Believing that even single chain narrations are preserved, this is very arrogant claim. You understand? God says, "Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra." We have revealed the book, Qur'an, wa inna lahu lahafidhun, and we preserve it. God took care of protecting Qur'an, but everything else, it was our responsibility. Did we perform good or not? God knows. But believing that we did well, it is over-evaluating yourself. You understand?